Why am I here? I did not go through anything like Eva went through. I was born in the 1950s. Shane will be speaking next week. She was born in a GP camp, so she has her experiences. I had my whole half side of my family, the ones who made it over. It affected me. I didn't realize that at the time, and I'll share some of that. And the other half, well, my mother went through the Depression, so basically I had to finish my dinner. 2 to 5, a father and a Depression mother, that was it. But I want to play something first by the son of a cantor. It's about a 5-minute piece. Oops, oh, Shlomo Leibowitz, he was actually at the Concord when the last people he and Ian Gourmet. Their billboard was actually still up there for years and years where Burger King is now. The last billboard. And fun. What I'm taking this personally is here's Dad, right here on the ship. He's the boy, one blue-haired boy. He didn't look Jewish. That never spoke with an accent. Over there, he spoke like he was a local. Over here, he spoke like he was from Brooklyn. Now, from here, we have 2 choices. I can give the 30-minute slide summary, or I can go ahead and let my dad speak for himself. That's 45 minutes, break in 45 minutes. So
I think can you talk a little bit about this photo and then do the summary?
I'll just jump right to
Like
it.
how you knew how he became part of this montage and et cetera.
Yeah, 1 second. Uh-oh. Okay, so, I'm sorry.
What were they promised?
To get the hell out.
That's it.
That was it.
I know we
They didn't want to go to Cuba. They want to be in New York. But they can get out. That was the only goal in life, was to get out. And he had to find a train ticket to get to Hamburg. And it's not a direct line. You got country your way, you go straight. He had to get a visa, he had to get papers. He had 4 daughters, 2 ended up coming with them, because one, his husband already passed away, and my grandmother and her husband sat around, so he had to take care of his kids. All right, so let's just talk a little bit. How did I get involved? I got involved, so God whispers to you when you have a coincidence in life. I winter now in Naples, or it's north of Naples. I was doing Holocaust Museum. I've been to the old one, said hello to the people. They put up a new one. You walk into Gallery 1, and Gallery 1 is a picture of Anne Frank. Who else? And Gallery 2, there's MS St. Louis. So I said, I'm gonna look for an 8-year-old boy that looks like my kid. I'm gonna go over there. I saw, looking and looking, and then right over there in the corner is these 2 ladies. I remember the back of the head from my stroller, that head. And then that face, I know that face, but I just didn't know who that face was. This is a very bad picture of it. So I took a nice photo of the face, and I sent it to my Aunt Nella's son, Renee, who's 79 years old now. And I said, Renee, I sent an email to him. Comes right back, where'd you get a picture of my grandmother? I've never seen one of her before like that. So, this to me proved what I thought. Well, I told those people in the museum, they go, okay, that's nice. We just got this picture from Washington. We don't know who these people are. I said, well, hey, they're walking on the ship. That iconic picture coming on the ship, the cruise ship, the photographers took a picture coming on the ship. My father never shook anything. He passed away, surprisingly, great shape at 79, healthy as an ox. He died. And I felt like I was going to his room, his private stuff, going through his stuff. But finding letters. They stole stationery off the MS St. Louis. They go right there. I still have that, whichever museum wants right now. But there's my great grandmother, Aunt Fritzy, walking on. That's the hero. My great grandfather's. And that actually, we're in that stole is my grandmother, and I guess my dad's on tow, but So when I showed this picture to the curators down there, I became involved a little bit with that museum, and I'm sharing the story that they can't share it anymore. So, just to give a quick historical perspective, you saw Henrietta walking on the ship. Julius Lee, her husband, he was born in Houston, which was Austro-Hungary, then it was Poland, now it's Ukraine, and we hope it doesn't become Russia. But, you know, that's where he was from, and he moved down to Austria, met Henrietta, that's her sister Josephine, and her brother Ignaz. I would say this is her rule of the 1900, approximately. I think so. Now, Ignaz was a wonderful painter. If you know right now, there's controversy about a painting up in Rochester at the museum there, because it's a Schiller, Ivan Schiller, and he has no family, but there are people who know him. If I had a lawyer, that's my painting, and the reason that's my painting is Egon Schiller had a studio mate who they were very close, maybe a little closer than we'd like to talk about. And that was Ignaz Schoenfeld, as they called him on the Nazi. Ignaz, now all the Adolf's adults. But over Ignaz, just for hell of it one day, I said, he died in the Spanish flu, he didn't live long, but his sisters brought some of his work to this country. I looked, is anything for sale? And also one of the art studios in Vienna has a watercolor from Ignaz Schoenfeld. How many euros? 140. Okay, I can handle that. I bought it. Now they got a sucker on the line. We have an oil painting your uncle did for 65,000 euros. So I said, I would like to see the chain of custody letter. I was ghosted after that. That's another one of my paintings.
It's his, it's really his.
I don't know whose it is now.
Should be yours.
Yeah, but not well. Anyway, yeah, here they are, just, living normal lives, Jewish lives, but Austrian lives. They were there for generations, longer than, we've been in this country. They were part of the Austro-Hungarian army, entrenchment community. Beautiful backyard. This is in the town of Thun, which is outside of Vienna, Belgian community. This is where Henrietta and Julius Lee set up shop, got a department store, had 4 children. Down by the Danube, day off. And I'm going to skip ahead. This is actually, if you look at the date, it's right before the Anschluss, so it's going to be way ahead. But this is their department store. And if you notice, it was a collaboration. You had both last names. It was Mr. Shapiro, but his wife was the Schoenfeld. So my guess, I don't know, was, the whole family probably worked. Because in a department store, you made the clothes, you made the pants, you custom, it was in the back room, there had a lot going on. And it was a big ordeal. If those who can speak German, the sensational white wheat sale. It's the, he's promoting what he does. And, great prices on there. And, Barnhouse Strasse number 4, come on down, get your deal. And this is, just before the end. And again, very interested in the town. Hedvig Haler, well-known philanthropist. Here are the 4 girls of different ages. His 4 daughters, one of which is my grandmother I never met. And the backyard, my father with his grandfather, I visited that backyard. The way my father explained it, I thought we had hundreds of acres and whatever, but, nice little backyard in town. And, they had a beautiful normal life, St. Mark's Square. And then she's buying that store from the first shop, visiting, having a beautiful life. Again, pictures I found that my father had saved over the years. And then after Kristallnacht, he had his heart attack that night, trying to save his business or whatever. But he had papers to back and forth to see, who issued the papers. So he was able to go back and forth. I mean, he already had his heart attack. He was. But once, Kristallnacht came, there was no more going back to work. They had a few loyal employees that have been doing, how to bring the food. You did not want to get caught outside. They probably wouldn't kill you, maybe they would, but you get beat up for sure. It was tough times. They were locked in the house. My dad was saying the kids who was friends, he was in Cub Scout with, now had the Hitler Youth. Jew, come on out, Jew! It changed. He said basically anti-Semitism was sort of not much more than I experienced when your friends got mad at you and called you names or whatever. You may call them a name. It was once the state sponsored it, it was a whole different thing. And he says, overnight, the sleepy Austrian town
To enable screen reader support, press Ctrl plus Alt plus Z to learn about keyboard shortcuts. Press Ctrl plus
Next
slash.
slide, I pushed the wrong button, next slide, please. Where you going, what are you good at, what's your skills, what languages do you speak, and all the paperwork so they're able to get their papers to get out. And, next one. This is, again, some paper my dad saved from Cuba, in terms of the visas. These are, letters from attorneys in New York. This is also March 1939. Again, I talked to you about the ship, you saw that. Some of the things my dad saved when stuff his reunions. You know what, they were kind of, again, he was smart, even though what was going on, he packed up a lot of his stuff, had them bring it to the shipping office, and shipped it to America, to his daughter. So I said, how do we get paintings? That's how we got paintings. We had actually some of the furniture that was shipped back, because Vienna, the museum wanted, because it's authentic Jewish furniture, which mostly was burned, or wasn't around anymore. So that was from I'll get to him, my hidden cousin. Yes, like your name, he was Heinze, but he became Lee. So they had him in the convent. Then he became Heinze again later on. Let me just keep going. Oops. There's more of the paperwork, doing the customs to get the stuff into the country. For what so many people went through, they went through mostly mental torture, though a few of them were beat up and a few were killed. I said my father and his immediate, it was mostly mental torture, and it ended up actually killing my grandmother very young, stress. Okay. Here are two of the girls that brought up this, Henrietta's sister Lily. We'll talk about Lily in a minute. And when they came to this country, occasionally mail would get out. They would get a postcard, for example. On the other side is the family. And in English, don't forget us, because Jewish people die twice. When you die and they bury you, and the last person says your name.
That's right.
So they don't want to be forgotten. They got a letter from them too, telling how wonderful everything was. The Germans have been so nice and it's so wonderful. And the rabbit we had for dinner last night was gorgeous. These were kosher people. So that was code, that the rabbit we had for dinner last night, because it got through the censors and they were able to read behind the lines. And people we never got to see again. Letters that came later on through the Red Cross this country. I don't know how they found out where they ended in Brooklyn, but what it says underneath, on the outside of the envelope, Simcha Zunk healthy, Heinz here. Okay, they got Heinz. Lily by Ann Elton, that means she was with her parents. Lily didn't make it. The picture of her. So Heinz lost his mother. Heinz lost his mother before he was, I don't know, maybe 6, 7, I don't know how old Heinz was, I could do the math later. But his mother told him, if I ever don't come home, we're not here when you come home, you go to Madame So-and-so's house. They weren't home. The little pipsqueak went to Madame So-and-so's house. When things got too hot for Madame So-and-so, he was dropped at the convent. He learned his character, he learned everything, and his father found him in 1946, I believe, and they emigrated to the United States. I don't know how they were here. I finally met him because Mella's son, who's 79, has a son who got married 6 years ago. And I went to the wedding in Geneva, practiced my French for that country, that area. And I got to meet him, and I was embarrassed. I met his wife many years earlier, and we really hit it off and talked, and I never met him. She came over and they, oh, Ricky, I go, shit, Bob, forgot it all, can't speak French anymore, because you don't practice it. But when I met him, his English was perfect. And I said, why is your English, what's going on? He goes, oh, I was in the Air Force. I go, who's Air Force? US Air Force. He came to this country. What do you do with yourself? He joined the Air Force, met a French woman, went back. So, I never knew that, and there you go. But this letter, by the way, took about 1.5 years to get to them. So, when the old split, he wasn't sure if his daughter was alive or dead for quite a long time because, there was no cell phone numbers. Whoops. That was Heinz Henry, what it looked like. Last time I saw him wearing black tie. Similar. Again, more of the letters that would come through the Red Cross. One's my dad say, Geliebte Eltern, in Chester, wir sind gesund, haben, hopefully you are too. Again, that's the best you can do. And I'm trying to look at the date on here. It says June 1944. The postmark is November 1945. So, you know, that was it. And I can remember for years later sending clothes. I mean, I can remember, so I was born in 54. I can remember, you know, it was only 15, 20 years after the war, still helping them out until they were able to get the stuff. And Mella and Herman moved back to Munich. They were Germans, it was their country, and nobody was going to tell them to take it away. And you know something, now, when they ask me for my COVID papers, I say, my Papiere? I have my Papiere. In my Deutsch Reichsbahn. I got my German and Austrian passport back also. Because how dare those bastards take it away?
How'd you get it back?
I'll get to that.
Okay.
Maybe. All right, let me jump ahead.
It's in good shape.
I think when we came to this country, again, some of the paperwork in this country, Henrietta, she became a naturalized citizen. 66 years old, 1946, didn't take her long, but you know, that's what they wanted to do. And one of the first sailors, they had a sailor in New York. And you know, my dad's holding on to his mom, Fritzy found a new husband, Elsie was Willie, and Mel lived long enough to get Alzheimer's disease, you know, in Germany. And I did, you know, she was a different, my dad was, when we went back, we went to his town, my brother said, hey Rick, my dad, shh, quiet, too loud, don't, you know, he was still a scared boy. I lived with my aunt in Munich for a few months, I was working there, and somebody said something to me, I really was on the, as I said to my aunt, and she said, anti-Semitic. She grabbed her purse. She was in the woods in France, so her mentality was a lot tougher and different than my father's was. So, you know, different experience than what we went through. And again, my Aunt Elsie lived a long time too, and she got to meet my kids actually. And my Aunt Emily, you know, she was always, you know, always was Henrietta's sister, and lived in the Bronx. And she was always different. And it wasn't until I read my father's stuff, and when the Nazis hit her over the head with the gun, and then what they did to her after. You know, that explains a lot a young boy never knew. But my Aunt Emily. And it didn't last long in this country. Their goal, you know, was to get the girls and the dad over there. I never met her as my grandmother. Again, the asthma, the pneumonia, the stress, the immune disease from everything she went through, she didn't live long either. And actually, my father never shared who she was. And he always go there, I remember by himself, he'd bring the gardening tools to clean the grave and all that. And I never knew. And when I was over there in Nice with my cousin Renee, he said, I visit your grandma. She's right by the Kentucky Derby. She's buried there. I finally came home. I went to find a grave. I couldn't find her. And I figured, where's that Jewish cemetery by Belmont Racetrack? So I went there. They found it on the computer. I went there. I go, she's not there. I went back in the office. They showed me. I said, she's not there. So finally, they pulled out these old wax drawings, and the computer was wrong. So we found her, and that's the first time I finally So let's just change for 1 second. There's my grandfather with my dad, the little blue-eyed, long-haired Jewish kid. And I don't know where he got it from. But his father was an officer in the German army. Very wealthy man. The family was wealthy. I don't know if he worked. But when the Nazis first came in, he outranked them almost, because he kept his medals right here, his Iron Cross right there, and he would push him around. My dad last saw him when he was taking his handkerchief away from the bar at the railroad station. He was last heard from in the hospital in Budapest. I guess they found out he was Jewish. I don't know. But that's the last he was heard from. But now, because that's the end of the Steins. I mean, my father's an only child. Are there any more Steins? Well, my father gets a call 20 years later. Hi, I'm your father's brother. I'm in Johannesburg, Africa. Okay, doesn't get a call, gets a letter. And my father sends a letter back. Yeah, sure you are, whatever, back and forth. My mother's saying, it's a scam, he's a Nigerian prince, from Africa. Then the next letter comes with baby pictures of my father. Okay, so there you go. And then my father makes that expensive call to Africa in the 1960s. And I'm remembering this. And so he says, have you ever seen my sister? My father goes, I have an aunt. Yeah, she lives in Forest Hills. Forest Hills in New York? Yeah. For all years, they always would scour the alcohol newspaper. That was a newspaper. I lived here. Did you know me? My pharmacist. I live in this town. This is my cousin. They looked. They never found each other. All those years. So I remember, and that's my aunt had looked at. She lived long enough too, not to know me. And yeah, she moved back to know me. Maybe my first, I don't remember. But she made it to my bar mitzvah. I do know that. And I remember my father saying, calling the phone and saying, I don't want to come visit you. Well, why? Well, I just visited your brother in Africa and bringing back pictures. And she's saying, well, I can't right now. I'm on the map. I'm trying to find plenty of people around. I have a nephew. She goes, oh, I can't find it. I'll come right over. And my mother's saying, don't go. Even with the pictures, it's a scam. Slow down. My father, I remember him getting dressed up in his nice clothes. He goes over there, opens the door, and there's a picture of him with a beard. And he remembers this picture. He was named after this guy, my father. This is his grandfather. He knew the painting because it hung in Berlin. But when Aunt Hedwig got out, her husband was a judge. He was a big shot in Berlin. And when he got fired, a top foreign service guy in 1930, whatever it was, for being a Jew, he saw the hammer on the wall. And he got to the US with his money and with his wife and his two girls. One girl died, the other girl moved out, had no children, and Hedwig was all alone, living in Forest Hills. Her husband's 20 years older than her. She got family again, and it gave us a chance to see again. She would always send me chocolate-covered cherries to my dorm. I hated chocolate-covered cherries. I never told them my roommate loved chocolate-covered cherries, but it worked out. So we did find out that after all, there was another Stein. And it didn't work for Hitler. There's my two brothers. Now my son had a boy recently who is now named Moshe, for my father, who was named Moshe, for that guy. So that painting is in my house. So the kid is 2 years old. We get that painting one day.
What year is that?
Oh, Jacob was 2000.
2000?
Oh, yeah, 2000. At Temple Shalom. That's when the boys bar mitzvah. So yeah, March of 2000. And yeah, basically, the opportunity came. They passed laws in those countries. If it was taken away illegally, with certain documentation, get it back. It really serves me no purpose, but my daughter just did it, and it does serve her a purpose. In other words, when she's in Europe, she's one of the boys when it comes to medical care now. When we go to Europe, we have the special insurance or whatever. She's part of the union. Also, she was recently in the UAE, the Arab countries. And I gave her some instructions that I bring no Jewish jewelry, please. Use your Austrian passport and keep your mouth shut. And then I said, my aunt in Brooklyn is giving her Shishon Shabbos. She even permissioned her grandchildren, when you leave grandma's, if you ever take your yarmulkes off, going home in Brooklyn, please do. They don't. They put their baseball caps on now, and they tuck into tzitzis. But that's the world we live in. So okay.
And my Austrian passport, but it has a green color.
I just got it. This is more recent. This, I guess, maybe 5 years ago. I got these approximately.
It looks new.
Yeah, got these. Yeah, I'm not going to renew them. I did just more because that's what I wanted to do.
It's good.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions? No. Any questions? What, do you remember what age your kids were when you started telling them about like the family's connection with the Holocaust? Or like what their responses, they responded to
I
know?
don't know if I ever told them. No one ever told me. You just think you sort of picked up and gleaned. You know, now that I'm involved more, yeah, I'm sharing it because my kids don't know the story much at all. I don't believe my father shared anything, my aunts and uncles didn't share. It's something they went through. And now we understand how important it is. And when I talk to kids, because I give this presentation to school kids, because it's mandated in some states. I say, now's the time to talk to your grandparents. I took my bar mitzvah album, you know, my mullet, you know, was with the, on the table in the room with the furniture with the plastic. You couldn't touch that bar mitzvah album. Now, my daughter and I took a Sharpie and I labeled all the people in my bar mitzvah album because she didn't know who half these people were. So, you know, we just did that recently. Don't tell my mother. Yeah.
Richard, I'm not trying to be contrary, but I have a reaction to something you just finished saying, and that was about hiding who we are.
Yes.
And I find a almost a moral dilemma in that if we hide who we are, I understand safety, I do. I have a sign on my lawn, bring back the hostages, standing with Israel. And someone stopped at my house one day and said, aren't you afraid of having your house smeared with paint? And I said, no. I said, if I don't stand up for what I believe, I can't expect others to stand up. And yes, I understand the interest of safety. But do you find any inner conflict from what you just said in terms of
My
instructing?
aunt would never take off her hide, but for the grandchildren, she's protected. Now, when I was on a cruise ship, we had a Jewish service, and there was glass all around. The Europeans were very proud, the Brits, that they're Jewish, and we're showing who they are. Well, the Americans were a little nervous. That was my sense.
What year was that?
Recently, in the last 10 years. My daughter, we were out in LA at Hibachi, and people sit next to us. My daughter's just talking, and she says, they go, hey, we're from there, where are you? My daughter goes, oh, we're Jewish. My brother and I dove onto the table. It's just a different reaction, a different, I don't know. But no, yeah, you want to be proud who you are. But, I mean, we was going on to the Israeli Day parade every year, and I was, well, look at the rooftops. Nervous as hell. But, you know, you got to do what you got to do. My opinion.
I'm not gonna give my age, but many years ago, I went to Beis
How old
Yaakov.
is she?
It's not sweet 16.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I went to Beis Yaakov, Beth Jacob, on the Lower East Side. Okay, and when we graduated senior year, in those days, some girls went to college, but a lot went to, you know, secretaries, things like that. And they told us, when you go out in the business world, don't wear a star or a dovet. And I remember that. And I know a lot of people today will say, oh, I'm proud of it.
What about Shlomo Litwitz? Shlomo Litwitz, Steve Lawrence.
That's all. But anyway, it was an all girls school, it was free, and they told us that.
But he would have sold as much music as Shlomo Litwitz.
It was 1960.
This was also.
No.
Well, when I came to America in 1961, I couldn't get a job at Cornelius.
Small with those dogs. You know, I'm in Naples half the year, and I'm meeting people. And I meet somebody at the dog park, and I think he's in New York. I think somebody goes, hey, you should come to an MCA meeting. I go, oh, okay. I'm thinking, YMCA? Oh, nice to meet you. And it happened 2 or 3 times. You should come to an MCA meeting. I go to a Jewish festival, and there's an MCA table. So what's the MCA? It's the Men's Cultural Alliance. What's that? Oh, we're a Jewish group. Why mention? Oh, because in Naples, when we started, we didn't use the word Jewish or Hebrew.
Naples,
Florida.
Florida.
We didn't use the words Jewish.
He's an
or
orphan. He came to America and The story about what is there.
On this week, I was enamored with the animation. When I was a kid, they took us to the movie Fantasia, if I will remember. And I started to think that I had to draw, and all my younger years, I was enamored with this drawing. And I wanted to become an artist, to draw animation movies and all that. After the army, I ended up going to the Israeli Academy of Art, Bezalel in Jerusalem. And when I graduated, I took some freelance jobs to have enough money for one-way ticket to go to the United States. And in the United States, I had a cousin who was a chairman at FIT. And I came to him, his father sponsored me to come there. And I showed a portfolio and art I have and all that. And what you do is, I go the way to Walt Disney. Walt Disney, forget it. He was anti-Semite. No Jews work for him. So stay in New York and then I went
That's not, what's
Well, you know, my father also was an artist, was an artist, very, very good, what he would do. And you know, he was going to become a commercial artist. And his uncle said, schmuck, go to pharmacy school. If you're that good at art, Sullivan night. So,
Day job.
Day job. So. All right, thank you all.
Thank you so much.